What's up YouTube, this is Sam from Tiger Schooling, and today I'm going to talk about the introduction to cranial nerves. We're going to talk about the 12 cranial nerves and their origin. I'll be explaining their origin using this diagram for the olfactory nerve, using this diagram for the optic nerve. I'll be highlighting the structures, like how they are made. I'll be making them really, very simple. So it's kind of an introduction to the cranial nerves, which are 12 cranial nerves. And then we'll be talking about their origin, and finally in another lecture we'll be talking about where they actually exit from the cranial cavity. But in this lecture we'll be only going to talk about some information regarding the all the cranial nerves and the origin of it. Let's get started by, I have made a few diagrams you can see down there. I'll be using them with my lectures. So first I'll be talking about all the nerves. So remember there are 12 cranial nerves. So we simplify them. Remember the first cranial nerve, you can remember them by numbers. You know, olfactory, it's always the first cranial nerve. Optic, always the second nerve. So first I'll simplify them, where they actually originate from, and finally I'll be using this diagram to explain them further. So remember, the first olfactory and optic nerve actually arise from your cerebrum. Remember this one always. So it's cerebrum, it's two. So two of them arise from cerebrum. And again we use two nerves, that is the oculomotor and trochlear nerve. So olfactory nerve for smell, optic for eyes, oculomotor again for eyes, and trochlear. And these oculomotor and trochlear nerves arise from your, what we call the midbrain, which is a part of your brainstem. These four nerves. Alright? So these four nerves, which is trigeminal, abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear, are located in your pons. And the last four nerves, which are your glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory nerves, and hypoglossal, are in your medulla oblongata. Alright, medulla. So I'll be showing you in a diagram how they are located. So remember it this way: 2, 2, 4, 4. So it's their formula: 2, 2, 4, 4. Cerebrum, midbrain, pons, and medulla. Remember them by number, and you are very easy to remember like where they are located. In further, as we go through the lecture, I'll be explaining through these diagrams where actually they are located, and we'll be talking about that. So first we'll be talking about the olfactory nerve, and we'll go through the number down below and talk about all the nerves. This is just an introductory video, and we'll be talking about their origin. So the first nerve, which is the olfactory nerve, remember there are about I'll be using this marker. So remember there are about 15 to 20 pairs of your olfactory nerve which are present here. So these are small olfactory nerves located this is your cribriform plate. Remember this, first understand this diagram. This is your cribriform plate, this is your forehead, this is your nose, this is your cerebrum. Alright, so this is your cerebrum, this is your cerebellum, this is the midbrain, this is your pons, this is the medulla, and this is the continuation of medulla, which is the spinal cord. So in the forehead, above the cribriform plate, this is a cribriform plate, like there are some spaces down there. Through these spaces, like down here, you have got your olfactory nerve, which is your first optic nerve. So if I zoom this part in, I'll be moving to this diagram. So this diagram is kind of like this. Remember it? So let me zoom it in, and this is it. So this is as it goes. This is your cribriform plate, and between these cribriform plate, down on the downside, you got to see these olfactory nerves. So these olfactory nerve are actually joined together or merged together, and they actually attach to these mitral cells, which again join together to form this bulb. This olfactory nerve attached to this bulb, and this bulb is called olfactory bulb, and they again connect together. All those nerves should connect together connect together to form the olfactory tract. So this is olfactory tract, this is olfactory bulb, and this is your olfactory nerve. So olfactory nerves connect to form the olfactory bulb move together to form olfactory tract. And again, as olfactory tract moves on, like this is olfactory tract, as it moves on, it divides into three stria. So we call them three stria, 1, 2, 3, and again these three stria go backward and attach to the olfactory cortex, which is exactly down there. So on in here, it attaches to the olfactory cortex. So this is kind of the origin of your what we call the olfactory nerve, which is actually in the telencephalon. Now we move towards the second nerve, which is more important. This is your optic nerve. So before we talk about the optic nerve, you have to understand a few things. Let me first characterize, make you understand the diagram. So consider this is your eyes. So these are your small teeny tiny eyes. So this is your small teeny tiny eyeballs. So eyeballs, these are eyeballs. This is the nerve. So this is your nerve. This is called the optic nerve. Remember where a place where optic nerve cross each other? This place is called optic chiasma. Remember that one? Optic chiasma, where both optic nerve cross each other or come together. So this place is called optic chiasma. After that, so remember, this is your eyeball. So what happens? So your optic nerve starts from here, and this place is called through the lamina cribrosa. So from lamina cribrosa, optic nerve join together and come together and merge together at the optic chiasma. And from the optic chiasma, they again go backward. So from optic chiasma, they are going back. All right. So we call this, as they go back from optic chiasma, we call it the optic tract. And this optic tract attached on the lateral geniculate body. So lateral geniculate body is actually, remember this one first. Remember, get to understand this diagram. So this is your midbrain. So this is your midbrain. All right. So this is your midbrain. This is your pons. This is medulla, and as we go down there, this is your what we call the spinal cord. So midbrain. This is midbrain, this is pons, this is medulla, and the spinal cord. In the midbrain, on the upper side, you have got the thalami. So these are two big thalami, if I make it clear. So this is one thalami, if I make it larger. So this is one thalami. And on the lateral side of thalami, a body is attached, which is called the lateral geniculate body. In the pink, this is lateral geniculate body on the thalami. All right. So thalami is located above the midbrain. So they come together. These optic tract. Understand this: optic nerve merge together, optic chiasma divide into the optic tracts, and they come and attach to the what we call this structure, the lateral geniculate body. And from this lateral geniculate body, optic, all these optic, these arise and these go backward, and these are called the optic radiations. Optic radiations. All right, optic radiations. So this is for the optic nerve. Now you understand, and there are a few things to understand. That optic nerve is a misnomer because it's not a true peripheral nerve. It's not a part of central nervous system. There are a few reasons I'll be explaining in you just a bit, but you have to remember, if teacher asks you what is optic nerve, is it a peripheral nerve, is it a true peripheral nerve, you'll be saying it's not a true peripheral nerve, because embryologically optic nerve is an elongation of your diencephalon. And if somebody asks you, if you're sitting in a Wi-Fi and they ask you why optic nerve is not a true peripheral nerve, so you will be saying, like, there are two main reasons. The first is they're surrounded by oligodendral cells instead of Schwann cells. So that's why they are not, because the peripheral nerves are neurons are surrounded by the Schwann cells, which protect them, give them food or whatever their function is. But in this case, they are surrounded by the oligodendral glion cells. That's why they are not considered the true peripheral neurons or nerves. The second reason is they are not attacked by disease, which actually influence purely peripheral nerves. Like if there's a disease which purely attack the peripheral nervous system, that disease won't attack them, which shows it's not a purely peripheral nerve. So this is about the optic nerve, which is very simple, from cribrosa, right? Optic nerve, optic chiasma, optic tract, from optic tract attached to a lateral geniculate body, and from that optic radiation, and optic radiation go backward and attach to the cerebral cortex, to the right part of your, what we call, where the vision is associated in the cerebral cortex. Now we move on and talk about the oculomotor nerve. So I'll be using this diagram to make you understand. First, let me make you understand what is this diagram. So this is what we call the above structure. This is a cut section. You're viewing it from the anterior side. If I cut your head from anterior side, you will see it this way, right? So this is your midbrain. So if somebody wants to divide it, you can divide, because it's one side and this is on the other side. So this is like, this is your midbrain, this is your pons, this is your medulla, and as we go down, this is your spinal cord. So all other nerves could be explained using only this diagram. The two important diagrams which we used last on for the optic nerve and olfactory nerve are different, because their main nucleus is located in the cerebrum, and the other 12, like for example, remember this one, these two were only located in the cerebrum, the other all are located in the brainstem. So this is the diagram of your brainstem. So if I want to write it down here, this is your brain stem. So this is you remember this one, 2 for the midbrain, like this is your midbrain, this is your pons, and this is your medulla. All right, this make it easy to understand. Now let's talk about the oculomotor nerve. So oculomotor nerve is attached to your midbrain. Remember, in midbrain, two main nerves are there. That is your oculomotor nerve and trochlear nerve. The oculomotor nerve, before talking about the oculomotor nerve, remember a few diagrams. So this is your red nucleus. This is your substantia nigra. Alright, so on the other side, same thing. Alright, so this is cerebral aqueduct, which connects your third and fourth ventricles. And this is just a diagram to make you understand it very properly. So this is the interpeduncular fossa, this in space. So what happens, the third, which is your oculomotor nerve, is actually is attached to your midbrain at level of superior colliculus. If I make a colliculus here, if you know what is colliculus, this is superior colliculus, this is inferior colliculus. If I make it on the other side, same. But if I'm getting a section from the superior colliculus, remember, from superior colliculus this arises anteriorly and move downward, crossing. If I use another color, it moves downward and exit from this fossa called interpeduncular fossa and moves anteriorly, right? And for the same thing, it is also here and goes down and it comes out from interpeduncular fossa and goes anteriorly. If I use another diagram to explain it, like this is your, consider this is your superior colliculus, this is your midbrain. So this section is your, from up till here, this is your midbrain. So this is superior colliculus. Consider this as your oculomotor nerve, which is third nerve, and kind of goes anteriorly. Alright, so this is for the oculomotor nerve. For the other nerve, which is your trochlear nerve, which originate inferior colliculus. So this was your superior colliculus, down here is your inferior colliculus, similar for this diagram. So what happens, it arises from inferior colliculus, but the thing about the trochlear nerve, it doesn't go anteriorly directly. Like it goes first backward, and from backward it turns out and comes forward again. So it's like goes backward and comes forward again, and again joins the club. Similarly over here, it goes from back and turns out and comes again anteriorly. So this is the only nerve from all the 12 cranial nerve in the brainstem which does it like this, right? No other nerve do it like this. So we're done with what we call the trochlear nerve, which is a bit different. Now we'll be talking about the trigeminal nerve, which is the fifth cranial nerve. So we are done with the, in midbrain we have got two, oculomotor and trochlear. all those is, and this is your third, this is your fourth. Now talk about the fifth, which is your trigeminal. So your trigeminal nerve is in this mid-pontine region. So this is your big trigeminal nerve. So trigeminal nerve, this is your trigeminal nerve. It has the sensory part of it, and it has also the motor part of it. So this in pink I made it, this is the motor part of it, and in blue color this is the sensory part of it, right? So this is your trochlear nerve. So what happened, this sensory part, this is the trigeminal part. This is your trigeminal nerve, which is the fifth nerve, very important nerve. So this kind of joined together to form the trigeminal ganglion, right? Ganglion. So this trigeminal ganglion is divided into three main sensory nerves. Remember this one. The first sensory nerve is your ophthalmic nerve. We'll be talking about the ophthalmic nerve in future videos in detail. The second part or second division of your trigeminal nerve is your maxillary nerve. The third is your mandibular nerve, which kind of goes down. And all the sensory part, but there's only one motor part of your trigeminal nerve, which is only for the mandibular. They're not for other. There's only one part, and it's joined your mandibular nerve. With it goes down. So there's only one motor part, which is the of the trigeminal, which follows the mandibular part of your sensory nerve. And this is it regarding your trigeminal nerve, which arises from the mid-pontine region. Now we are going to talk about the other three nerves, because we know in the pontine region there are four: trigeminal, abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear. Some books write down like the abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear, which is 6, 7, 8, is located in the pontine region. But some books says it is in between the what is called the pons and medulla, which is between at the junction between pontomedullary junction. So this is a pontomedullary junction. It goes from medial to lateral. So if this is the fifth nerve, this was 1, there was 2, in the medulla there was 3, there was 4, and this is the fifth. The sixth one is like down here from medial to lateral. We'll go medial to lateral. So this is sixth one, 7th one, and 8th one. If you use another diagram, so 3, 4, 5, this is 3, 4, there's a big 5 at the junction from it goes like from medial to lateral. So this is 5, 6, 7, all goes anteriorly, right? This was for the other three nerves which were going anteriorly. The other nerve, which is your, like the last four nerves, which are your glossopharyngeal, vagus, accessory, and hypoglossal nerve, they arise from medulla. But medulla, it arises from another space. For example, consider this diagram. If we see closely on the back of it, there is big cerebellum. So this is cerebellum on the big back of it, the big cerebellum. So in this diagram we'll be talking about like this is understand the diagram. So this is your pyramids, this is your olive, and the junction between the pyramid olive arises a big 12th hypoglossal nerve. But at the end of this olive, which is the post olive, we get which is post olive sulcus, we get what we call the 9th, 10th, and 11th nerve. And there's another branch of 11th nerve, or which is the spinal part of 11th nerve, which comes from down, which is the accessory nerve. So 11th and they join together. So as we go up to down from in the medulla, it's 9th nerve, 10th nerve, and 11th nerve. And between the olive and peduncle in the pyramid, there's at this junction there is another nerve called 12th nerve, which is the hypoglossal nerve. If I make it on the other side, it's the same thing. So this is your 12th nerve, which is the hypoglossal nerve. So this is the simplest diagram of the origin of all nerves. If I combine it together and make it understandable, remember the first two nerves, olfactory, optic, arise from cerebrum. We talked about it in detail. Oculomotor and trochlear, midbrain. This was it. And trigeminal, which is in the mid-pontine region, and abducent, facial, and vestibulocochlear at the junctions, and glossopharyngeal, vagus, and accessory from the sides of it, and the big hypoglossal nerve at the between the olive between the junction between the olive and the olive and the pyramids. So this is it regarding the lecture introduction to the what we call the origin of the cranial nerves, and we'll make another lecture, a detailed lecture on the exit from which cranial cavity or from which foramen or from which spaces these cranial nerves exit out. So keep visiting Tight Schooling. See you next time.